Speaking of Moses and the prophets, you may have noticed that this is the second week in a row that we've had a very challenging text from Amos, the prophet, about, well, what the theme of the gospel is, about taking care of one another and noticing the needs of one another and coming to their aid. Pope Paul II, when he came to the U.S. for the first time in 1979, he had a mass at Yankee Stadium, and he chose this reading, this gospel. Obviously, he thought the USA, the richest country in the history of the world, had an obligation to take care of the needs of our brothers and sisters throughout the world. Kind of think that's still a very timely message for us. We're not doing very well at all with that in terms of actually giving a small amount of our national wealth to the well-being, the health, and the survival of our brothers and sisters throughout the world. It's quite a challenge. I'd just like to look at a couple, especially of the symbols in the reading today, the Gospels. In a few moments, I'll hand over the mic to Thomas, our seminarian, who will speak to us about our seminary. But there are a few very interesting points I'd just like to mention briefly. You notice that the rich man doesn't have a name in the Gospel. In our English tradition, we've called him Dives, Dives, which is the Latin word for rich man. And in a sense, that's the danger, that rich people are just rich people. That's how they see themselves. That's the only reality that they have in the world. And that can be a great pitfall. That they don't know their own name in God. They don't know who they really are. No matter how many buildings have their names plastered on them, they're rather nameless to themselves in the end. Whereas the poor man has the name. The ones who are nameless on our streets actually have names before God, and they should before us as well. God dwells in unapproachable light, as the second reading says. So obviously we have to take this colorful parable and accept the symbols that are there. For example, the poor man is carried to the bosom of Abraham. Well, that's obviously symbolic. But so is the chasm. That's not something geographical in hell or so wherever that God put there so that people couldn't go from one side to the other. That's not what it means. And that's not how it works. That chasm was established by the rich man in his lifetime. He still doesn't bridge it because he wants Lazarus to serve him. So the chasm was created by him. God doesn't make up these things. We do. These things that are our torture are what we created ourselves. And that's the next point. These flames, we talk a lot about the flames of hell. Are they metaphorical? What are they? Well, there's a very fascinating verse in the letter of James, which has a similar theme that says, "You rich people, woe to you. You fattened yourself up for the day of slaughter," it says. It's very graphic. And says, your gold and your silver have rusted away, and they will devour your flesh like fire. Wow, that's interesting. I think it works this way. The elements of the universe, the elements of the world created by God, which were meant to be shared and given and expanded, when we no longer have the shield of the body to protect us once we die, those energies, those powers are like fire because it's totally contrary to the way we lived. That's a good way to look at it. But once again, it's not created by God that way. We do it to ourselves. We create our own hells in this world and the next. Or we create the heaven also. And finally, just that last point about the rising from the dead. No, we have the Gospels, we have the prophets, Moses and the prophets. We have the Gospels in addition, very clearly today. That's all we need. That's message enough. It's proof enough from God. It's a message enough from God. And it's very astute what it says. If they're not listening, they'll find some excuse not to pay attention to somebody even should they rise from the dead. Oh, it's not real. So let's start listening.